So today I thought I'd do a little bit of history of StarCraft 1. This is from 2006, I think almost into 2007. Or it might actually be 2007. Some of the VODs I found of this were 2007, others were 2006. This is the MSL Finals, sponsored by GOM TV, by the way. The same GOM TV that eventually made their own Star League a couple years later after I moved to Seoul. Apologies in advance. The quality of this is very low. I do have the volume muted for now because there's a bunch of copyrighted music playing. I'll have the volume turned back on here as we go into our game. So this was the finals between Bisu and sAviOr. This was really when StarCraft was starting to maintain its presence as a constant force. I think we're still in K-pop groups here at the start. Let me try to get to the actual part of the show here. But yeah, at this time, as an example, K-pop groups were coming in and playing before major StarCraft matches. There were this merger of the Korean culture of esports with K-pop culture, which was still kind of obscure back then. There were some diehard K-pop fans back in the day. Now Korea is like one of the biggest cultural exports in the world. This also is maintained to this day. K-pop groups and other performance groups at esports events. But yeah, this is the period where we had both the MSL and the OSL. The OSL being the original Star League at On GameNet. That's where the O comes from. The MSL was from NBC Game. This came a little bit later and was a competing Star League. And by the time you had these two leagues out, you basically had StarCraft on TV all the time. So, and you could see here, I mean, this is a packed studio. I think I've actually, not studio, this is a theater, I believe. I think I've actually worked out of this theater. There is about maybe 15 to 20 locations in Seoul that are pretty regularly used for esports events. I think this one's actually on a university. I can't remember which one, unfortunately. And so this was a really interesting time. It was a couple important things to note. For one, PvZ was changing, and that's what Bisu managed to revolutionize. He was doing fast expand PvZ in a way where it seemed like maybe everybody should be doing it. Before that, a lot of times fast expand was a build you might throw in, but you'd go back and do other stuff. Some people thought it was a bit of a cheesy play, but the more time that passed, the better players became in it. Ultimately, this caused a lot of the maps to be reconstructed so that Protosses could always fast expand on it. You can see we're still in the pre-show here. I'm going to see if I could skip a little bit further ahead here. They're going to bring the two players out. Bisu was facing off against sAviOr. Ma Jae-yoon is his real name. And this guy is important because not only was he the best Zerg, he was also at the center of the match-fixing scandal in Korea. So up into this moment, StarCraft was, I guess you could say, like a very pure thing. A lot of people, myself included, it wouldn't even occur to us that there would be even match fixing. In fact, I didn't even know that online sports betting was a thing at this point in time. And so we'll talk about that a little bit more. Let me see if I could just get a little bit further in here. I'd like to get into some gameplay. And I want to see if they actually show the proper trailer, the proper opening. Where is this? God, this is a long-ass intro. Hold on. All right, I'm going to cut a little bit further ahead. They have the interviews with the players here now. This aesthetic, by the way, at the time, like production-wise, I think you can see there's a lot of flavor to it. It looks very different. There was a lot of these graphics, these animations, these photographs, not different than what you see like in UFC now. And then you have these great intros. Now, again, I'm sorry, I can't play music. I don't want to get copyright struck, but there was a lot of popular music at the time. Not even Korean, but Western music that was blaring, like Linkin Park or Marilyn Manson. And they had these cool animated intros. If you go on YouTube, actually, this is something I'll probably be doing another video about later on, but you can look at all of the videos for the intros for OSL, and I think MSL as well. They were really well produced. They helped make StarCraft cool and accessible to the public. And so I think, let's see, we're getting a little bit further along. Damn, I forget how long these intros are when I'm not actually casting. And so, are we actually ready to go into the game here? All right, so they're going to do a quick look at the map. Almost 30 minutes. Okay. And so we're going to take a quick look here at this opening for Game 1. This is a map. It's a 3-player map. The name escapes me. And again, I apologize for the quality. There's just not a whole lot I can do with that. I did try to move my little, my info with all my socials down here on the bottom right. I'll put the volume back on here. You can see the volume quality about matches the, the video quality. So you can see immediately, it is a pylon at the expansion. Now, there was fast expanding before this moment. I don't think anybody was as good at it as Bisu, but PvZ had always been in a weird spot. Some matchups, people had figured out how to fast expand. In others, it seemed like, you know, maybe you could pull it off as a trick or a gimmick, but maybe you shouldn't be doing it at all, right? Now, this is one of the maps that really allowed players to fast expand, not by design. I don't think map makers really thinking about it. That's right, the map is Longinus, thank you. I'm so bad with map names. Good job, chat. So, because this map has a smaller entrance, it's very easy to wall it off with a forge and a gateway. You know, unlike Terran, which can lift buildings off and relocate, Protoss don't have that. And a lot of their buildings, you know, they're important if they get picked off at a distance from, like, Hydralisks or Lurkers, as an example. You're in trouble. Did he go Nexus first? That's crazy. If it was Nexus first, we'll see in a second here. So, Bisu was doing a lot of openings like this, and it was a little bit confusing for the Zergs. Keep in mind that you could fast expand. Yeah, he did go Nexus first. Very cool. You could fast expand as Protoss, and for some Zergs, they would think, okay, well, we're going to have to try and kill you right away. Others would say, I need to take a third base. So, as important as it is to appreciate that the Protosses, and especially Bisu, were fast expanding, the Zergs on the other side had to figure out their own game for that. And so StarCraft started to become pretty interesting in PvZ because you had a very different looking early game. Early game prior to this, and we can go back a couple years, I guess. So this is what, 2006 or 7? StarCraft came out in about 1998, 99. A lot of the games are Protoss just 2-gating and then trying to expand, or going for, like, if the ramp was small and you're on the high ground, maybe going for fast gas and trying to get Corsairs, or some people would go for Dragoon Reaver. There was a lot of weird stuff on one base people would try. And a lot of even the fast gas stuff was basically engineered to get you a fast expand. You might go for a Corsair and a DT, but the idea is really to just secure your low ground, to clear the Overlord out on the high ground, and then take a base. There was Forge expanding happening, I think even in the first year or two, but it just wasn't that common and it wasn't that refined. So here, this moment right here, this is an important moment to note. We never see a fourth base this early in PvZ. And I would say for Zergs at the time, this is one of the problems with the meta, is it's like, okay, he's expanding. How much can I expand? If you watch ASL now, the answer is you get 3 bases to their 2. But in this case, sAviOr went 4 to the Protoss's 2. And just to be a little bit more clear here, I know it's not on camera, but that is like an isolated pocket in the bottom right side of the map. So that's not another starting location. That's not another natural. With a main behind it, you could easily take. That's funny. Did he get his second gas before the Stargate? No, he got the Stargate first. It's just put over there. So, I want to point out this fast expand build here for Bisu. This was, even for its time, really, really refined. The fact that the Stargate is tucked away, the fact that The second gas is actually timed out really well. At first, I thought he got the second gas before the Stargate. It's only because I couldn't find the Stargate on the minimap. And this allowed Protoss to engage the Zerg in a way they just couldn't do it before. The oldest idea for StarCraft 1 was basically two-gate Zealot. You inhibit Zerg from making too many drones. The correct way for the Zerg to play is to get 2 bases, although now we do see some games where Zergers are good enough they can still get up to 3 and hold it. But let's just go with that time period. They would get up to 2 bases, get a sunken colony, a lot of times just tech into Mutalisks, and then try to hit the Protoss as they're expanding or force them to make cannons. And it was a very different looking game. And with this opening, you had such a bigger income with gas. By the way, gas the most important. I mean, out of other matchups, gas still probably the most important for PvZ. You just still, to get Corsairs, to get your upgrades, to get Templars, it's really important. This allowed Protosses to actually do pushes instead of just kind of rely on early game pressure rushes and harasses, or turtling and taking a bunch of bases and just going into the late game much later on. Iconically, the second gateway is always for Bisu at the natural, and he still does this to this day. Now, you might be asking yourself, why is that? Well, if they go for a Mutalisk rush and you need to get an Archon made, a lot of the good players would snipe the Templar that's coming from the gateway in the main and the gateway that's at your entrance in the wall-in. And Bisu consistently did this. By the way, he went for 2 DTs here. Sorry, I'm just going to, before the game gets ahead of me here. He consistently made his 2 gateways here so that you couldn't lose to some kind of a weird 2-base or 3-base Mutalisk rush, which was the initial response a lot of Zergs had to this. Is it blurry? Do I just see glasses? It's an old VOD, my friend. I'm sorry. Stuff this old, this is the quality we have on the internet. So, DTs are sent out right away. And if you watch a lot of modern StarCraft 1, by the way, crazy he gets the scouting link in there. If you watch a lot of modern StarCraft 1, you've probably seen people like Mini do this. You keep making Corsairs, you keep hitting the Overlords. Unless they make Scourge, and then you mix it up. Hey, Chris, thank you for the raid. Welcome, viewers. And if you go for the Overlords early on like this, and by the way, this might look kind of, a kind of basic move for modern StarCraft. It is. Back then, it was kind of crazy. Because Zergs were having to expand and actually keep up with all of these, with the fact that Protoss is on 2 bases, Zerg has to get a lot of bases up. Suddenly there was a vulnerability where DTs could slip in, and it was kind of hard to manage all your Overlords. Because you're making so many Corsairs, the Overlords have to bunch up. Now, again, one of the common things you'll see in the matchup now is that people always get Aspire, like we have here, but also Scourge to try to keep the Corsairs back. But that idea wasn't inside the meta yet for the game. And, DTs, look, man, they do 40 damage. They've always been good, but it's kind of incredible how quickly one of them can kill off a building. Now, we just saw, let me see if I can get a shot of it over here. We just saw the 3rd base get set up. We just saw the 3rd base be taken by the Protoss, and this is another big difference between then and now. With a few exceptions, nobody takes the 3rd base that fast. It's much more common to get up to 8 gateways and kind of power up and get ready to hit. And this was something that made it difficult for a lot of Protosses to figure out, is like, can you get a 3rd base right away? Do you just want to take a couple Zealots and Templars and try to get a Nexus? Or how do you play it? And the way it looks now, it's much more tight. But here it was a little bit more of a chaotic space. And so the DT gets in the main. The second DT, can he kill this? You want to turn this into an egg, ideally, to block, but the problem is DTs also kill eggs fast. Today, DT never comes to the base because of the Zerg's wall. That's right. So this was all pretty... This was a very interesting time and place in the game because economically, players were in different spots, but they didn't tactically or positionally know how to deal with the opportunities or the disadvantages they had. So it's funny, you can also see the lurkers can bum rush the Nexus at the third base. The cannons are a bit late, Mutalisks are out, but they're not counterattacking. Here is a common exploit in the matchup is the fact that DTs are actually pretty fast, and they don't die that quickly. Any way to bump up the quality? There's no way, Crisp, sorry. He's going to lose this Nexus here. But yeah, DTs can basically play keep away and be fine. And it's hard for Overlords, which are so slow, to actually catch up with them. Looks like he should get this one. Oh my god. Okay, he gets it. I remember watching this with my brother in our shared bedroom one summer when I was home from college. It was so hype. So, you can see the ideas are kind of already here, but some of the execution is a little bit weird. Like, you wouldn't really push out at this time of the game. The lurkers were a bit earlier than normal. The mutas were a bit of an afterthought. And that DT that he hit, by the way, can come in here into the main and hit this again. And you got to remember, you just didn't see Zergs get beat up on like this before. It was just a very different feel for the matchup, and it's why this playstyle was so revolutionary. Now, a more modern Protoss would have actually built this up and pushed out off 2 base, not trying to take a 3rd base and push. There's a little bit of like overlapping ideas here, but that's also true for the Zerg as well. You're getting both Lurkers and Mutalisks, which means you kind of don't have either one. You kind of have to pick one or the other. And now you have Zealots just spilling into these positions. And the Zerg is just barely hanging on. You know, as an example, these Mutalisks, they will kill the Zealots eventually, but they're not going to kill them that fast. What is he on? 5 gateways total? I guess 6 gateways total. And he's taken a 4th base. So, and again, in a modern game, you wouldn't be trying to expand and both push. You just have nothing but gateways and end the game. How much would I say the overall skill and knowledge increased compared to then? 3 times, 5 times? It's kind of hard to say. You know, there's that old Emerson quote, like, we stand on the shoulders of giants. There's just been so many layers built on top of what people knew before. And so, I mean, people are much better and there's a much deeper understanding, but there's still things being built on top of that at this point. It's like a player or group of players push the matchup to a certain level, and then the other side has to try to figure out and compensate for that. And it's sort of this never-ending journey. So, you know, he got his observers out really early. It's funny, I can kind of see a little bit of myself when I tried to copy this as a student of the game when I was still in college, and being so confused because I never felt like I had enough Templars, because he gets his observers out to fight lurkers to get his 3rd base. The idea now is that you would just get your 4 Templars, Storm, observers, and Dragoons, and then move out, and then take a 3rd base. That being said, there are some experimental quick 3-base timings I've seen Mini do, and I think pretty much just him. So, because sAviOr takes 4 bases here, he's just at a very unstable spot. It's just hard to defend. Cannons are pretty manageable as far as defending stuff goes. And even if the Zerg actually breaks him down, you have plenty of time to try to pull away with your workers. Do Zoomers play Brood War in Korea? Yeah, there's a lot of young people playing. It's still top 5 games in PC cafes. So, this game should pretty much be over. Yeah, there it is. All right, I'm going to axe the volume because there's going to be copyrighted music playing. We're going to go to the final game and just look over that real quick here. And so, it's important to remember, and it makes me sad to say this, but let me just go back a quick second here while he's on camera. So, the match fixing scandal was exposed, I think, in like 2000 and late 2007. Because I moved to Korea in 2008. And I remember that because it was the financial crisis, the global financial crisis. And I remember not really knowing what that meant because I don't have like a portfolio, you know what I mean? But I just knew that people were losing jobs. And I'm like, I wonder if I can still get work out here. But it's important to remember that this guy was the center of a match fixing scandal. And we don't really know, did he throw his own matches, including the one that we're seeing here, which is weird to think about. I did another video where Flash talks about this and the damage of the match fixing scandal for StarCraft. But a couple things to note. First of all, Koreans can't gamble. It's actually a very weird thing culturally. There's like a casino as an example next to the GSL studio, and the studio is sometimes used for ASL, and only foreigners can go there. So it's pretty much full of Chinese tourists. And I mean, I can't think of another country where that would even be a thing, right? Like that just, can you imagine in America if like there was a casino that like Koreans and other people could go to, but Americans could? It just wouldn't happen. But generally, there's just a huge social stigma with gambling in Korea. And even a lot of the dramas, excuse me, a lot of the dramas, let me put the volume back on here, on TV, they always have like some older figure who gambled the family's money away, or some young person who's in trouble with like the mob for gambling. But apparently there's all these off-site like servers not in Korea, maybe they're in the Philippines or like, I don't know, the Bahamas or whatever, that do service gambling that Koreans can access with a VPN. And apparently there was sports betting on that. So because of that, it would be possible in theory for a player to bet against himself, throw a match, or arrange with another player. Like, I'm gonna do this build and you do that build, and you could very easily set it up almost like it's WWE, where like one player's gonna win no matter what, no matter how good they are, if they do certain openings against each other. But this rattled the StarCraft scene. And a lot of people were worried it wouldn't recover. Let me see. Does he actually block this? I want to get a shot of the natural expansion here before I continue on with this match fixing thing. I want to point out how bad this map is for fast expanding. Bisu still does it. But I guess this observer is just going to follow this worker. But yeah, okay, so look at how bad this entrance is. It's insane. Now Bisu manages to pull it off, and it was maybe a year or two after this they basically changed a lot of the way that the maps are made, where they always had a reasonably small entrance at your natural expansion, so you could fast expand. But before that, you had a lot of bases like where the layout just didn't make sense. Like, this is a map I think a lot of other players would look at and think maybe they have to one base, or maybe fast expanding is too risky. By the way, if you had this map today in ASL and players tried to fast expand, Zergs would probably just kill them with a Hydra Bust. People are too good at doing that, and there's just too much area to cover. Anyways, yeah, so when sAviOr got caught with the match fixing thing, it really rocked the scene. And it's interesting to hear the opinions on it, because some people were saying, well, these pro gamers don't make that much money. What do you expect? But, I think about that and I think, well, yeah, that is true, but that's also kind of true for every sport, or every field of competition, is that, like, there's a couple people at the top doing very well, and then there's a lot of people not making it. Also, if match fixing happens, it destroys the entire thing that we're all trying to do, which is enjoy a game and see what happens. And what a great opportunity for a player to have, with their youth, is to play their favorite game and compete for prize money and glory and all that. And so it rocked the scene. It did not kill StarCraft like people expected, but it was very, very damning and damaging. And I don't know if we ever got the full details uncovered. There was a lot of speculation and rumors. Excuse me. But it did hurt it, and you have to keep in mind, as hot as StarCraft was in Korea, there was also a pretty conservative movement in the country that was anti-gaming, just like there is in every country. I mean, I'm sure we all remember, Mortal Kombat as kids and how the news reported on that, or Grand Theft Auto, but this was an opportunity for those outlets to really slam on esports and all that in the country. So again, I'm not saying he match fixed in this game, but it is possible. There were some matches that came out in court that were fixed. Maybe you could send that to me, Moletrap. I didn't follow the story that closely, as it was unfolding. I remember it was still like being talked about when I moved here. I remember being mildly stressed out. People were like, I can't believe you'd move here and try to do this after that happened. And I'm like, oh. Thank you for the sub, Corky. Your alert will play after we're done with this content. So, again, you look at this entrance. Sorry, it's like so blurry no matter what I do. You would never see anybody fast expand like this. You would never see a cannon, 2 cannons behind the gateway, a second gateway here, 2 cannons in front. And so this is truly in the middle, or the kind of the in-between point of fast expand as a meta and as a concept that map makers kept as far as ideas on how to design a map. This is really that in-between area, because we can see some games like the Longinus one in Game 1, which you can fast expand perfectly. We could get on there right now and fast expand, no problem. And then maps like this one, where I think, frankly, you probably couldn't get away with fast expanding, but at the time, fast expanding was so new and not enough people were really doing it on a high enough level that Zergs weren't able to lab out ways to come in here and punish it. So in this game, we have a Spire variation. I think wisely so. sAviOr opts to, try to go for the Achilles heel of the fast expand build, which Bisu handles very nicely. You can make Scourge and Mutas and try to clobber the Corsairs in the main, kill the cannons, and just snowball the game. And so, this many cannons with Corsairs, you're just not going to get in there. Now, we're on 3 bases, so this is looking a little bit more like a modern game. Although you can see that the Sim City is not entirely correctly set up. And there it is again, sAviOr with the 4th base, probably too early. And again, that was the big question for Zergs back then. It was like, okay, well, when do you... Obviously, they're going to take a base. Either I really go all in on 2 bases, or I take a 3rd base because I should be ahead. But when do I take my 4th? And Zergs have really refined this down to the point where, like, you really don't take a 4th that fast at all. Not until you're totally ready. So Zerg's continuing to accumulate Mutalisks. I think to the casual StarCraft fan, you might think Corsairs always beat Mutas, but you got to be careful. If Scourge can connect on enough Corsairs, you can wipe the last few Corsairs out with Mutas. Both units have a moving shot ability, which means that if they start to win the fight, they can just keep shooting and connecting shots to the point where the thing will never escape. So the Arc... Oh, I just skipped back. Shit. I meant to pause the game. Where are we at? Okay. Sorry, chat. All right, we're going to go back a second. So the Archon that we saw on camera, there it is. This is a really important part of the build when you see Mutalisks coming out, because the Archon can cover the Corsairs in the middle of the map. And again, I think we're going to see him take a 3rd baser. This is one of the funny things. I didn't really think about this until I started sharing this video with you guys. I kind of forgot about this part. I knew that the openings were important, but it is funny to see a Protoss take a 3rd base this fast. So not only did Zergs not know when to take a 4th, but Protosses didn't know when to take a 3rd. They only had the first few minutes figured out. And it's kind of counterintuitive to everything that we know about the game, but it was still happening then, as Protoss were both expanding and taking a base. Again, no High Templars here yet. No Psystorm. Look at the people holding their faces here. So much drama. Fans were so into it, by the way. I got to go to a couple matches in person here. People are into it. So overall, sAviOr's playing a better game here. I actually, by the way, got to meet both of these guys early on in my career, going to BlizzCons. Both these guys are very friendly to me. It made me really bummed out to hear that sAviOr match fixed. He was extremely nice to me when I talked to him at BlizzCon. I got to sit behind him and watch him play. So yeah, I mean, I was as shocked as everybody else. Did I say both players expanding and taking a base? I meant both players expanding and attacking each other. So this was really some of the first major games where you consistently saw Corsairs killing Overlords and then Zealots running out like they're Zerglings and hitting a whole bunch of different locations. And it's funny because if the Zerg loses control on either front, they're probably going to lose the game. If you can't stop the Zealots, all your drones are going to die. If you can't stop the Corsairs, you're not going to be able to make any attacking units, and then the Zealots are going to win anyways, and then you're back to the first situation. And it was especially damaging if you went for the Mutalisks, because if you lost the Mutafight, you don't have any anti-air. And so you can see, assuming this is not a matched fixed game, I don't know if it is, I'm not saying it is or isn't, you can see this is just a concept Zerg's never had to deal with. Before this time, you would have maybe like 2 to 3 Corsairs harassing Overlords, and maybe you'd keep making it, making Corsairs if they kept making Mutas, but, you know, the Protoss expanded to their second base so late, you couldn't get that many Corsairs out. Now it's different. And so the second part is, of course, DTs suddenly are extremely powerful. You kill off these Overlords, they're supply blocked. Now, they have to send all their Overlords over here to kill the DTs, only that makes it an easy target for the Corsairs. And, you know, when this started to hit, I mean, you never saw Zergs just get beat down like this. And, you know, to this day, if you watch Bisu versus good Zergs, the games basically look like this. He's just really, really good at it. And it's funny because people thought of it, you know, of DTs as just not necessarily that good because there's so many Overlords everywhere. So why would you try to do that? And then Bisu turned it on his head by saying, well, actually, I can kill all the Overlords, and, you know, they're the farms and the detectors, so suddenly that's the Achilles heel, and the game's turned upside down. We don't see 4 DT drops as much, although I guess every time I talk about anything that's weird, PvZ, that still happens. Mini has done this. Mini's gone for a lot of DTs early on in PvZ and kind of brought it back into style. But yeah, the idea of just hitting the Zerg everywhere, having the ability to harass, to push, to run away again, was revolutionary for the matchup. And basically, from this point on, everything in PvZ is a fast expand build. Because you can create too many opportunities, like he kills the layer here. He's going to kill the... God, they die fast. Kills the spawning pool, killing the Hydras. I think it's 2 hits for a DT to kill a Hydra unless it's got the armor upgrade. Okay, so GG. I'm going to mute the music here. And, yeah, I mean, for me, one of the most memorable matches... Oh, my God, this video quality. One of the most memorable matches ever. Again, there's the GOM TV sponsor. A few years later, they decided to start to host their own leagues, which is where I finally got to do what I wanted to do in Korea, which was cast StarCraft. And this was one of the last major matches from sAviOr. You know, after he got exposed for match fixing, from what I understand, I think he went to the Philippines for a long time, or like at least for a year or something like that, to lay low. You know, is a lot of shame and humiliation with that. I think he did stream on Africa TV years ago, which was a controversy. Some people were saying he shouldn't be allowed to stream, which I don't really agree with. I think can't be allowed to compete, but you can't not let the person stream. Like, if you want to take away their internet too. And of course, this is really where Bisu made himself, you know, the legit. You can see Kingdom hugging him here. You know, the legitimate leader in Protoss thought. And he's still playing today. He's one of the only players from this era who's still playing, who's still able to get like a top 8 consistently in ASL. Jaedong off and on is able to do it. Stork competes. He seems to really be kind of a top 24 player, sometimes top 16. And of course, Flash is not playing StarCraft right now. So, yeah, guys, thank you so much for joining me for that little history lesson. Very cool to go back there. For some people, this was the golden age of StarCraft. For me, I think the golden age is actually right now with ASL. And, yeah, I'm looking forward to the future with StarCraft. But it is cool to go back and look at these games. And again, I think out of all the finals in PvZ, this is maybe the most important and has still got an impact on how we play the game today. Thank you so much for watching this. If you like this kind of content, please be sure to like and subscribe. See this Tasteosis shirt? Ugly Tasteosis? You can get this at tastelessthreads.com, my merchandise site. And you're always welcome to join me on my Twitch stream where I make this content live with my community. Have a good day, stay safe out there, and I will see you in a future video.